Hello viewers, this is D. Mary Suguna, lecturer in English, Satya Reddy College for Women, Eluru. I am dealing with the topic Coromandel Fishes from Semester 2, English Praxis 2, a course in reading and writing skills, which is common for all UG programs. Coromandel Fishes is a poem written by Sarojini Naidu. She is considered as the Nightingale of India. You can see the image or picture of Sarojini Naidu, which is collected from Google. Her full name is Sarojini Chattopadhyay, Hyderabad, India. She was born on February 13th in the year 1879. She was a political activist, feminist, poet, and the first Indian woman to be the president of the Indian National Congress. She was appointed as an Indian state governor of Uttar Pradesh. She was called as the Nightingale of India. She entered the University of Madras at the age of 12 years and studied at King's College, London, and later at Girton College, Cambridge. She was actively participated in India's Congress movement and Mahatma Gandhi's non-cooperation movement. Some of her works are her first volume of poetry, The Golden Threshold, which is published in the year 1905. It was followed by The Bird of Time, published in the year 1912, and in 1914 she was elected a Fellow of the Royal Society of Literature. Her collected poems, all of which she wrote in English, have been published under the titles The Sceptred Flute, published in the year 1928, and The Feathers of the Dawn, published in the year 1961. Sarojini Naidu has been praised by leading Indian personalities including Rabindranath Tagore and Jawaharlal Nehru. Throughout her career, Sarojini Naidu worked for the dignity of the common man and the education and emancipation of women by actively encouraging setting up of orphanages and schools for girls. She also urged the student community to stand united against racial and communal discrimination. She belongs to an era of struggle, slavery, and freedom fighting. Her poems evoke a sense of patriotism, the natural rhythm, the beauty of sensuous imagination, and cadence which flowed from her freely gave them a lyrical quality, and it won her the title the Nightingale of India. And finally, she passed away on March 2nd in the year 1949. Coming to the poem, the major themes of this poem are hard work, relationship of fisherman with nature, and the beauty of the sea. The poem is written based on two main aspects, the lifestyle of the fishermen and their devotion to the sea. Here, water, as in the form of sea, in this poem has played a significant part. It's been called a mother who is the giver of life. For fishermen, the sea is their wealth, and their life is based on the treasures of the sea. Even though their life on the sea is adventurous, they still prefer the dangers of the sea, accept her as part of their family, and portray her greatness to the world. This poem not only expresses the fisherman's identity with the sea and with the community, but also the folk sense of order and discipline. Coming to the setting of the poem, the setting of this poem is Coromandel Coast on the Bay of Bengal. Here, Sarojini Naidu, why she has mentioned this particular setting means, as a child, she lived on the coast of the Coromandel Bay in Bengal, and she is becoming very familiar with the lives of the fishermen and equally gaining knowledge about their families and livelihood. The hard lifestyle of the fishermen and their meager earning surprised her. She was astonished at their devotion to the sea that was a mother figure for the fishermen. Next, coming to the structure. The poem consists of three stanzas, consists of 4 lines each, following iambic pentameter with a rhyme scheme AABB. Let us go through the poem Coromandel Fishes. Rise, brothers, rise. The wakening skies pray to the morning light. The wind lies asleep in the arms of the dawn, like a child that has cried all night. Come, let us gather our nets from the shore and set our catamarans free to capture the leaping wealth of the tide, for we are the kings of the sea. No longer delay. Let us hasten away in the track of the seagull's call. The sea is our mother, the cloud is our brother, the waves are our comrades all. What though we toss at the fall of the sun, where the hand of the sea god writes, he who holds the storm by the hair will hide in his breast our lives. Sweet is the shade of the coconut glade and the scent of the mango grove. And sweet are the sands at the full over the moon with the sound of the voices we love. But sweeter, O brothers, the kiss of the spray and the dance of the wild foam's glee. Row, brothers, row to the edge of the verge, where the low sky meets with the sea. Here, the poet begins the poem with the lines, Rise, brothers, rise. It is clear that she is wakening up the sleeping. Literally, the phrase indicates to the fishermen, but it is a wake up call to the people to do something for their nation. The poet is singing in the form of a fisherman, addressing his brothers about the life and attitude of the fishermen of the Coromandel coast on the Bay of Bengal. The poem describes the universality of the notion that how the sea, cloud, waves, and human beings are interconnected in Coromandel as is everywhere else. This song imitates the movement and balancing of waves. Its rich musical content and the lines and words are perfectly synchronized with its inborn tune and rhythm, which is exactly why it is specially noted for. In stanza 1, the poet begins the poem Rise, brothers, rise. The wakening skies pray to the morning light. Here, the wakening sky is offering its morning prayer to the sun at the time of the dawn. And in the next line, The wind lies asleep in the arms of the dawn like a child that has cried all night. The fishermen have to rise very early before the first ray of the sun reaches the sky, and even the wind would not have risen then. In the words of the poet, like a child that has cried all night, the wind is in a deep sleep in the arms of the dawn. Here, the idea is scientific since the wind would rise only after the atmospheric temperature rises with the sun. And next line, come, let us gather our nets from the shore and set our catamarans free. The nets after fishing the day before being spread on the shore for drying, which have to be gathered. Here, the poet used the word catamaran, or in Tamil we say kattumaran. Catamaran or kattumaran. The word is from Tamil kattu, binding, and maran, wood. It is a raft made of a few logs of wood lashed together. It is propelled by sails and paddles. The fishermen handle this craft very dexterously. So these catamarans have been drawn up on the beach and tied to stakes driven into the ground. When the fishermen go fishing, they have to be set free. These are fishing boats used specifically in the south. The use of the specific term enhances and personalizes the setting of the poem, which is only explicitly mentioned in the title. And in the next line, she is telling us that to capture the leaping wealth of the tide, for we are the kings of the sea. Here, hasty but systematic preparations are taking place. The catamarans are resting, but now it is time to go to capture the leaping wealth of the tide. From the sand which has to be freed, since they are the sons of the sea, they have a birthright over the abundant wealth of the sea. And the another implication in this poem is that the poet asks the freedom fighters, means the fishermen, to wake up as the success, that is, independence of India is quite near. The wakening skies pray to the morning light symbolizes the land which is welcoming the independence after being in the darkness of the slavery for so long. The wind lies asleep in the arms of the dawn like a child that has cried all night refers to the atrocities that the land of India and the people of India had suffered in the hands by British during their cruel rule. With the independence, it will vanish away. Come, let us gather our nets from the shore and set our catamarans free. In this line, the poet asks the freedom fighters of India to take their weapons, means nets, to capture the leaping wealth of the tide, that is, the freedom of India, because they are the kings of the sea, which refers to India. And in the second stanza, poet again calls out that no longer delay. Let us hasten away in the track of the seagull's call. Here, seagulls are birds that lives near the sea and has short legs and long wings and white and grey feathers they have. It is an experimental proof that where the seagulls call at that point or in that very area, the fishes are in plenty. This is why the fishermen Do not lag away and without any delay get to the track of the seagull's call. Once the fishermen reach there, their job is easy. The poet says that they have no reason to fear the sea, wave, or the cloud because the sea is their mother, the cloud is their brother, and the waves are our comrade. And in the next line, what though we toss at the fall of the sun, where the hand of the sea god drives. And here, even in the evening, when they will be tossed with the waves, somewhere in the mid sea, they need not fear because they would be at the mercy of the waves, even where the sea god Neptune controls everything. And in the next line, he who holds the storm by the hair will hide in his breast our lives. For the very simple reason that the wind god will hide or protect their lives in his breast. He who is all powerful and strong to hold even the storm by its hair, showing fatherly affection on the fisherman. Here, another implied explanation in the second stanza is that the poet urges the freedom fighters not to delay and at once start fighting as the leaders, means seagulls, have declared a war against the British and they should follow their leader's path. Here, according to the poet, the sea is our mother, the cloud is our brother, the waves are our comrades all. That is, the land is theirs and everything in it is their family, and hence the freedom fighters need not fear. The land, which is a mother god, will protect them from the wind or the foreign rulers and protect them, the freedom fighters. And in the stanza 3, here the fishermen have many sweet attractions on the land. Sweet is the shade of the coconut glade and the scent of the mango grove. And sweet are the sands at the full over the moon with the sound of the voices we love. Here, the fishermen have sweet attractions on the shore. The shade of the coconut glade, the scent of the mango groves, and the sands lit by the full moon at night with the sound of the voices of their most beloved ones nearby are indeed sweet. But sweeter, O brothers, the kiss of the spray and the dance of the wild foam's glee. Row, brothers, row to the edge of the verge, where the low sky meets with the sea. And but to the fishermen, the kiss of the spray wash and the dance of the wild waves are sweeter. So they long to be at sea. Here, towards the close of the poem, the fisherman and his comrades bathed in broad daylight, row to the bluishness of the horizon, where the sky and the sea are at play. The last stanza is a comparison between life on the land and at sea. She uses vivid imagery here to describe the scent and shade of coconut glades and mango groves. But she reminds us or to the fishermen that the kiss of the spray and the dance of the wild foam's glee is a taste much sweeter. Here, the implied meaning is that the poet says that the comforts and the joys that the Indians enjoy under might be sweet, but the fragrance of independence and the feeling of being free is quite sweeter, and hence the freedom fighters should wage a final war on the British. She reminds us not to be content with temporary satisfaction, but to work towards the happiness and joy that we have found elsewhere. Here, the stanza holds a strong metaphoric value as it talks of the temporary satisfaction that some people faced under the rule of the British, as well as how all Indians knew that there was a real joy to be found in living independently. Next, coming to the summary. Here, the poet asks the fisherman to rise in the morning light. The sky prays to the morning light. The poet portrays that the wind sleeps in the arms of the dawn. She compares the wind to a child. Like a child, the wind cried all the night and sleeps during the morning. The speaker calls the fishermen to gather their nets from the shore. They have to set their catamarans free. The fishermen have to capture the wealth of the sea because they are the kings of the sea. Here, the poem Coromandel Fishes also considered as an allegory. Here, the poem has both the allegoric and metaphoric value to it. As an allegory, it speaks to the fisherman but holds a metaphor to the nation. Next, coming to the poetic devices which are used in Coromandel Fisher's art, metaphor. Metaphor is a figure of speech that makes a comparison between two unlike things. The example of this metaphor is the sea is our mother, the cloud is our brother. Coming to the personification. Personification means attribution of a personal nature or character to inanimate objects or abstract notions. The example is the wakening skies pray to morning light. Next, coming to the simile. Simile is a figure of speech in which two essentially dissimilar objects or concepts are expressed compared with one another through the use of like or as. The example for simile, personification, and metaphor are wind lies asleep in the arms of dawn like a child that has cried all night. Next, coming to the rhyming words that we can find in this poem are light, might, free, see, call, all, groove, love, drives, lives, glee, see. And conclusion. Hence, the poem Coromandel Fishers is all about fishermen. Yet, it metaphorically reflects the poet's desire for free India, and thus she encourages people of the nation to hasten their struggle. Sarojini Naidu starts her poem on hopeful note. As an inspiring writer during the period of India's struggle for independence, her major aim was to wake up the minds of the freedom fighters. She has put the fishermen in the place of soldiers and the sea to the battlefield. There were number of reasons that made the common people, the followers of the movement's fishermen, to be reluctant to go into the battlefield, as they were afraid of the destructive forces, wind, storm, tide. But she fills their minds with hope and asks them to capture their leaping wealth. By calling the enemies brothers, comrades, and mother, she highlights non-violence, India's greatest weapon. In the end, the poet reminds the fishermen not to be mesmerized by the temporary pleasures they enjoy now and not to forget to fight for the real happiness of free India. Next, coming to the references, these are the books that I refer to make this presentation. Thank you.